Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU. I'm Zion Trammell here with my co-host Seth Dowdle. Seth, this is episode number 100
You're
for us.
kidding.
I'm not kidding. This is our
Whoa.
100th episode. I didn't even tell you this before we hit record. Yep.
That's
100th
crazy.
episode on the day that we get to talk about March Madness. It's perfect.
No better day to do it. I mean, like you could argue that this is the biggest day in college sports college sports calendar, like the selection Sunday. You could argue that that's one of the biggest days of the college sports calendar. So to be able to celebrate the century mark is just kind of nuts. Thank you all for being along for the ride with us this entire time.
Yeah, we appreciate the support. We've, set out on a journey to just talk TCU athletics, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever it is, maybe even soccer every once in a while. Or we've talked about it a couple times, but we've really enjoyed bringing all this coverage of TCU athletics, and we'll continue to do so. And we'll start today talking about the tournament, because for the first time in TCU's history, both the men's and the women's team have made the dance. They are both dancing into the tournament as single-digit seeds as well, not to mention.
Well, how about that?
Impressive. Yeah.
How about
that? We'll start with the men's tournament. TCU matching up as the 9 seed, taking on Ohio State.
In the group of death.
Yes.
In the region of death.
It really is. TCU, we talked about it last week, how I was, upset that one year we were the 6th seed and we got matched up with Gonzaga and the 3 seed. This is an absolutely insane East region. Just to put this into perspective, Duke is the 1 seed and would, in all likelihood, unless Siena pulls off the upset of the life of a lifetime, even bigger than Purdue's loss, arguably, then that would be the team they play. You have as the 2 seed, you've got UConn, who's obviously going to be legit. You've got Tom Izzo with Michigan State as the 3 seed. You got Bill Self with Kansas as the 4 seed. St. John's.
Rick Pitino.
Rick Pitino. Louisville. This is a ridiculous region. UCLA, Mick Cronin, and his shenanigans.
Listen, I saw somewhere there's like 30 plus national titles between all the schools combined in this region.
It's insane.
TCU has 0, by the way, contributing to that figure.
Yes, it's crazy. It is wild to think about. Unfortunate that TCU got that draw, but hey, it's going to be a tough test. TCU's already had some tough tests. They're the only team in the country that's played. I mean, I'm assuming the only team in the country that's played
1 seeds.
Yeah, they played Arizona, Florida, and Michigan. They hung in with Michigan. They beat Florida on Thanksgiving, and they struggled against Arizona. And so, hey, that bodes well for TCU, assuming, again, they got to get past Ohio State. You watched a little bit of the Big Ten tournament, Seth. They beat Iowa. Where did you see much from Ohio State?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a team that is kind of similar to TCU in some ways. They have some good wins this season, but they also have some losses that are head scratchers. Not as serious as TCU's losses to like New Orleans or whatever, but Ohio State has losses to like Pitt and where is it? Oh, I just lost it. And Washington. Those are like not teams that necessarily, I mean, they're not tournament teams, but they also have wins over Penn State, not Penn State. That's a bad team. Wisconsin and Purdue in the last month, right? And they played Virginia close. They played Nebraska close. They played Michigan tight a couple of times as well. They played Illinois close as well. So like it's a team that has showed that they have some fight in big time games, but also is susceptible to losing to inferior competition. And if that is not TCU men's basketball, I don't know what it is.
It's like these teams were made for each other, Seth. It's It sounds oddly familiar. Bruce Thornton, their leading scorer, averaging 20 points per game, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. John Mobley, averaging 16 points per game. But yeah, those are some pretty significant wins. Again, TCU also beat Wisconsin this season, but hanging in with Michigan. So it really, I mean, I haven't gotten a lot of eyes on Ohio State men's basketball this year, but it feels like these are two teams that line up pretty similarly, and we could see a really tight game. That's usually what you get in the 8-9
Mm-hmm.
Matchup. So I'm excited for it. I'm just really happy that TCU's back in the tournament. Look, I know we talked about the region, this gauntlet that the Frogs are in, but it's just exciting that they're back in the tournament, especially with how things were looking at one point. This was a young team and just a great turnaround from Jamie Dixon.
Absolutely. I mean, there's not much else other to say than like this is just fantastic to see them here in this spot. Whether they win or lose, what a fun season this has been, especially this last month or so. Them just kicking it into high gear when they really needed to most, getting those wins over Iowa State and that win over Texas Tech and Lubbock. They fought hard to the end against Kansas in the Big 12 tournament game. We can gripe all we want about, refs and fouls and free throws, but TCU has shown that they can compete at a high level with teams like Ohio State and then maybe even Duke, right? Should TCU get there. And obviously Duke is the number one overall seed, which is kind of funny that they get the toughest region after being the number one overall seed in the tournament, but that's neither here nor there. And TCU has shown that they have the mentality to go out there and slay giants. So we'll see if they can do it. Obviously, as you said, they got to get through the Buckeyes first. And it's going to be a tough task. Bruce Thornton, as you mentioned, he's averaging 20 points per game. He can go off. He can score 30 in any given moment. TCU's got to figure out a way to contain him. John Mobley is a fantastic secondary option as well. Both of those players guards that TCU's going to have to contain. I want to really kind of pinpoint it on this. TCU likes to go small in their lineups. They don't really have any. They haven't really been playing any centers all season long. After Malik Diallo got hurt in the first game of the year, they like to go small. Xavier Edmonds is kind of their tallest player that's out there consistently. Christoph Tilley, Ohio State center, he's 7 feet tall. Can TCU limit his production on the interior? I think that's going to be a key matchup to look out for. And then who steps up offensively for TCU? Can they hit the three ball? A lot of questions for the Frogs. I definitely think it's an even matchup. The spread kind of suggests that it's a 2.5 point spread. Ohio State is the favorite in this game. But either way, I think it'll be a competitive contest with some kind of key matchup stuff for TCU that I'm interested in seeing. Can they guard the interior? They kind of struggled with that against Kansas to a certain extent. Obviously, it's tough when you're facing the Jayhawks and what they're able to do in the interior and when TCU's lack of size. But that's it, right? Like TCU's here. Can they go out there and win a basketball game? I'm really interested to see.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see as my dogs are chipping in here. Really excited to see what David Punch is going to be able to do. I think this is going to be a really good test for him offensively. 14 points per game, 7 rebounds a game. If I'm curious to see the leap that he takes, and does he become that star player for TCU? And if they get past Ohio State, obviously a really good test with Cam Boozer and Duke. I would love to see that matchup. I mean, it's a really good test for him, and I'm going to assume that he would see some looks on Boozer. But if TCU goes anywhere in this tournament, I think it starts with David Punch, and he can raise the ceiling for this Frogs team.
Yeah, everything stops with him, starts and stops with him and what he's able to do. He's had some really good performances the last couple of weeks. I like what I saw from him in the Big 12 tournament. And listen, TCU is no stranger to playing teams that have superstar talent that's going to be drafted into the NBA at a high level, right? I mean, you mentioned games against Kansas. Obviously, they lost both games to Darren Peterson, but they arguably should have won one of them and were in the last one to the bitter end. They fought really hard against AJ DeBonsa. They beat Iowa State. Texas Tech has some NBA talent on that roster too. Obviously, they took Michigan to the wire and they have plenty of NBA talent there as well. They beat Florida. So listen, if TCU gets to that Duke game, and maybe we're overlooking Ohio State a bit, but I don't think we are. I think we recognize that TCU could very easily lose that basketball game. But it's more fun to talk about TCU potentially slaying a giant like Duke than it is about beating an equal in Ohio State, because I view kind of a TCU Ohio State game as maybe I view a TCU UCF game in Orlando on in the middle of February. Not that they're equal in terms of stakes, but UCF and TCU very equal teams in the Big 12. I think Ohio State is kind of right there with TCU, very equal. The difference is obviously that Ohio State has those big time scoring threats. TCU is kind of more spread out in terms of their offensive production.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not, and I'm right there with you. I'm not necessarily overlooking Ohio State, but it is fun to talk about because look, Jamie Dixon has taken this team to the tournament, what, 4 out of the last 5 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Something like that. He's had an impressive track record of getting teams to the tournament. He's 16 of his 23 seasons at Pitt and TCU. They've gone dancing, but TCU's never made it to the second weekend. And again, beating Duke might be a long shot, but man, oh man, it's fun to think about getting that task, getting the matchup of against a top 3 pick in the NBA draft. I mean, it's really fun to think about. So you take care of, well, I wouldn't say take care of business, but you go in there and you are able to defeat Ohio State. You get a really fun and a lot of eyes on this program, which could bode well, even if you keep it close or, again, you pull off the upset. It could be really great. TCU tipping off, I believe, on Thursday. Yes, at 11:15.
First game of the tournament. First game of the tournament, or the real bracket. Obviously, there's the first 4 in Dayton, but like the real bracket, TCU is the first game on Thursday.
Okay, yeah, that's on CBS. We've had some great first games of the tournament in years past. So
I gotta say, I am so thankful for TCU. The last couple of times they've been in the big dance have been late West Coast games, last game of the night sort of stuff. On Friday. Like TCU has usually been like one of the last games to tip off of the entire first round. And to have them be the first one to tip off is great. I'm so glad that I don't have to stay up super late to do it. And it's just more fun because a lot more eyes, I think, will be on them in this spot as well. And it's on big time CBS. Listen, this is great draw for TCU in terms of the visibility.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a great opportunity. I'm just glad these young players are getting this experience and understanding what March looks like, what this atmosphere feels like, what the tension is like. And all of these are good things for the future of TCU men's basketball, regardless of the outcome, whether it's in the first round or the second round. It's going to be a good opportunity. Again, I think for keys to a win for TCU, free throw shooting is going to be absolutely important. I imagine it'll be a close game. Going to be a lot of opportunities late in the second half. David Punch taking that leap into becoming a star. Let's see it. Can he do it? We'll find out. And then third, I'll also say Brock Harding is a bit of an X factor as well. He has some experience against Ohio State. He played for Iowa in the Big Ten last year. So, can they rely on his playmaking abilities? Can he knock down free throws if needed? And I think TCU, if they can execute those 3 things and get some consistent minutes across the board from everybody, they got a pretty good chance at beating Ohio State.
Yeah, we'll see if they can do it. I'm interested to see how many Frog fans show up to Greenville.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not sure. But yeah, what a region that the Frogs are in. It's wild. Should be a lot of fun for TCU men's basketball. Again, first game of March, so don't miss it. It's going to be at 11:15. So, if you're at work, call out, take your lunch. Then I don't know, do what you got to do to watch the Frogs.
Do it, yeah. Just go outside, take a smoke break. You don't need to smoke a cigarette. Just bring your iPhone.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. we'll move on to the women's tournament where TCU is is favored a lot more to get to that second round. They'll be at home for their first two games, but we got to talk about it, Seth. They're in the Sacramento region and not Fort Worth. How is a team in Fort Worth not in the Fort Worth region? Maybe they just thought that would be too much of a home court advantage. I have no idea, but it's kind of ridiculous. Instead, they're going closer to my hometown in Sacramento, about an hour out.
If they can get there, obviously they'll start in Fort Worth, but it would be fun to go the entire way in Fort Worth. I don't know. Bracket rules are weird, but it's fine. I think, Olivia Miles even said it yesterday that might be a blessing in disguise to go out, not that she didn't want to play in front of the TCU faithful, but go out there, accept a different challenge somewhere else instead of having to stay home. Maybe, a great bonding experience as well to go out on the road. So obviously they got to get out of Schulmeyer Arena first, win those first two games, the first one of which against UC San Diego on Friday. Also at 11 a.m. That might be the first game of that day as well. So start off your Thursday and Friday with some TCU basketball. That'll be a whole lot of fun. I think that for this one, though, for TCU, right, like we're talking about Ohio State, we're like, this is going to be a nip and tuck game. It's going to be super duper close. Ohio State's got a lot of these prolific scores. They got a lot of good wins. I don't know if I expect the same out of the TCU UC San Diego game. 34.5-point spread. TCU is favored over the Tritons, I want to say, for UC San Diego. Yeah, the Tritons.
I think so.
Yeah. 24-8 so far this season. Obviously, a good team as well, but I think TCU is just a little bit better.
Yeah, you would think, 34.5-point favorites that TCU can, take advantage and take care of business. I think last year, who did they play in the first round? I can't remember.
FDU.
Oh, it was FDU. Yeah. And it was kind of like a little bit close in the beginning, and then TCU kind of ran away with it. So the big thing with this team is, and we had been talking about it all season long, but it's really going to pay off here now in March, is the tournament experience that this team has. Just referencing Nick Giramonte here, TCU had women's basketball has a combined 37 NCAA tournament game appearances on their roster. Taylor Bigby's played 10. She was at USC. Then obviously last year TCU. Donovan Hunter 8 with Oregon State. Olivia Miles with Notre Dame. Aaliyah Roberson has 4, although she won't be playing. Clara Silva has 2. Veronica Sheffy's played 1. Marta Suarez has played 1. So all of these players, pretty much everyone across the board that's going to be playing significant minutes knows what March feels like. And that is a complete opposite from the men's team. And that really bodes well for TCU. And we've seen in the women's tournament over the last couple of years, the teams with a lot of experience make the deep runs into March. UConn last year with Paige Beckers, they came up close in years past, and then they finally broke through and won the whole thing. So that really bodes well for TCU, and I think that really gives them a good chance to make a run in this tournament. Again, they'll take on UC San Diego, and then they'll play the winner of Washington and South Dakota State. That game will be played at 1:30, just a couple hours after TCU tips off. And then that's when the second round will start. So again, you got to take care of business at home, but we talk so far ahead for TCU because that's the expectation. It's not, we'll see, maybe they'll make it to the Sweet 16. No, like the expectation is Elite 8 as the floor, honestly. And the ceiling could be the Final Four or even the national championship. You never know.
Yeah, and obviously the road is tough. We're not saying that it's not, but yeah, you're absolutely right. After last year, you want to build off that success. You got to the Elite 8, you fell short, and you just want to make sure you can maybe get there again or even get to the Final Four. Obviously, if TCU, say, gets to the Sweet 16, loses a close game to Iowa or Georgia or whoever is there, you say, okay, like close game, maybe you lose on like the last second shot, whatever. That's basketball, that's sports, stuff happens. But obviously, you want to be competitive all the way to the end, and we'll see what the Frogs can do. Obviously, these first two games, I expect TCU to be able to win those against UC San Diego and then probably Washington, though that spread is only 5.5 points for the Huskies over South Dakota State. So obviously we know that upsets are not as prevalent, especially in the early rounds of March Madness for the women, but maybe could see something there between the Huskies and the Jackrabbits out in Stromile Arena, which will be happening at 1:30 p.m. You can go watch that game in person if you're around Fort Worth. That's the fun thing about the women's tournament. If you're wanting to root for your team, you can go and watch who they might be playing as well. So that is fun too. But yeah, you're right. I absolutely agree. You got to make it at least to the second weekend, and once you're there, you got to fight hard, which I expect them to do. It's a Mark Campbell team. They're gonna compete.
Yeah, if there's anything you know about Mark Campbell is that he's going to have his team ready and so that is why another reason why we're so confident. And again, it's not to speak down on the other teams. Again, South Carolina is the 1 seed in Region 4. Iowa's the 2 seed. They've had a great season. Oklahoma's been great. Who's the not the 3, the 5? We're the 3 seed, the 5 seed. Okay, Michigan State. So yeah, it's a good region. Just glad we didn't line up with UConn or Texas. I think those are probably the 2 best teams in this bracket. So again, South Carolina, Don Staley has a great track record. So if TCU lines up with them at some point, certainly not going to be easy. It's going to be a massive challenge, but I'm excited. I can't wait. I think it's really that time where TCU women's basketball can reach their highest potential and go on a run here. And it's cool that we're going to get to watch both teams simultaneously and hopefully see them make some runs here.
Yeah, I love nothing more than to see both these teams end up playing on Thursday or Friday next week. So we'll see if they can do that. Obviously, it'll be kind of more of a long shot for the men. They would have to get through Duke or the Fighting Sienas, who have just pulled off a massive upset and are rolling on a high that is unmatched. So that could also be a possibility as well. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm in love with this bracket. I'm in love with every single bracket. Sometimes I print it off and I just stare at it and
bask in the glory.
Yes, of the bracket. Who doesn't love a good bracket? It doesn't matter what it is, really, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, it's amazing. I filled out an Oscars bracket on ESPN yesterday. They were doing that. They had an Oscars bracket on ESPN.
That's crazy.
And I filled that out. So any bracket is great. You mentioned, okay, just going back to the men's real quick, and now I feel like I'm about to ramble, but if TCU beats Ohio State and Siena beats Duke, would you be more scared at that point to going into that matchup? You're like, wait a minute, this team just took down Duke. You're telling me that hold on, let's see, who's their top scorer? You're telling me that Gavin Doty and Justin Schultz just took Cam Boozer out of the tournament?
I don't know. Listen, let's go. Do you want to go through the history of the 16 over the 1? It's brief history, but we'll see. So in 2018, right, Virginia lost to UNBC, which everyone remembers. What is happening to Virginia is Jim Nance's iconic call of that game.
That's a hilarious call, by the way.
74-54 blew them out, which is kind of nuts. They lost to Kansas State, which was a 9 seed in the next round by 7. 50-43, one of the lowest scoring games of the tournament, maybe the lowest scoring game of that entire tournament. In 23, was it 23 or 24? I think it was 23, right? 23, yeah, Purdue lost to FDU. That game was super close.
And FDU, believe it.
FDU, believe it. Another iconic call from a 16 over the 1. I honestly prefer what the heck is happening to Virginia or whatever Jim Nance said.
Yeah, it's more honest.
Yeah. Game after that, 9 seed FAU, which ended up making the Final Four, won by 8. And actually what I recall being a pretty close game as well. So I think TCU would win over Siena. I can't believe we're having this conversation. If this happened,
We're all about chaos over here.
If this happened, what that I think would do, hopefully what that would mean for the mojo wise is, there's always one region. Usually, it didn't happen last year because last year was kind of all chalk, but usually there's one region that just dissolves into utter calamity. Just everyone is losing. Hopefully that would spell doom for the UConns and Michigan States and Kansas and St. John's of the world, that all of a sudden Duke is losing to Siena, and then TCU can rise from the ashes and go to the Final Four or something like that.
That would be pretty sweet. I'd say that if all the regions of that for, the least likely to happen, I would say our region's probably least likely to happen. There's just so many great coaches and great players. Literally, like you said, two of the top three picks in the NBA draft are in this East region. So I think it's probably least likely to happen but it's always fun. I really hope that there are more upsets this year than last year, and it would be really nice because that's what March is all about. Is, hey, let's talk about Loyola Chicago making a run here,
Yeah.
or all these random NC State, these random out of nowhere programs making a run. That's what makes it so special. So I am hoping, for a lot of people's sake, that we get a couple Cinderellas this year and not as much chalk and just higher seeds winning.
And maybe TCU can be one of them. How about that?
Hey, why not? Back to the women real quick. Is there, before we wrap up here, is there X factor that you're looking at for the women's team? Like someone that, could be obviously Miles is a big factor. Is there someone that you think could be the key ingredient to a good run here for TCU?
Taylor Bigby's going to have to hit shots.
I like
they
that.
They need a third scorer. They need a Madison Connor, and that's going to have to be Taylor Bigby, I think.
Okay. I like that. That's probably what I would go to, or Donovan Hunter. I'd say one of those two.
I like Donovan Hunter, but she's, last couple games feels like she's kind of been struggling offensively, maybe been a bit more passive, kind of, deferring to, obviously it's easy to defer to players like Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez, who just kind of have that bulldog mentality that they're going to go out there and score a bucket every time they have the basketball in their hands. And obviously I would like for her to, go out there and score more, but without Maddie Shear, you need some more 3-point shooting ability. And it's not that Miles and Suarez aren't good at that, but Bigby, that's kind of where she really excels on the perimeter. And so I would like, she's got to knock down shots. Not that she hasn't, but she's just going to have to keep doing it.
Yeah, she's going to have to keep doing it. And if Hunter can do it, can find her shot, that's a huge bonus as well. All right. That'll wrap things up here for our March Madness preview. We'll give recaps for both the men's and women's games as they quickly approach this weekend. We're so excited. Cannot wait for March Madness, and really excited that both teams are in the tournament. You can subscribe to our YouTube page or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.